Hello everyone, welcome back. My name's dustinkreis and it is time for a game discussion. Now, this game, going into it, I had rock bottom expectations of this game. And that might have been a good thing. I don't know, because consistently throughout the game I have been completely, utterly, and entirely blown away. And that game is Final Fantasy XIII-2. I never thought I would have said that about this game. You know, if you've watched my channel for a long time, you've known that 13 was not my cup of tea. And when they announced this, I started making jokes, you know, Final Fantasy XIII, the sequel no one asked for. And in a lot of ways that is true. No one asked for this sequel, but by God, I'm glad Square Enix did it. What can I say? This has just been, from the word go, this has been a fantastic game, and I have loved every second of my time with it. And I do plan, even though I've beat the main storyline, I do plan on going back and collecting all the fragments, and I'm going to look at the DLC and see what the DLC is like before I start downloading some of that. But anyway, wow. This game, oh, by the way, this is the American Collector's Edition for the PS3. If you guys want to see something that's really awesome, you know, I am so jealous of Europe now. Back in the day, Europe got nothing and we got everything. Now Europe is getting everything and we're getting these little things. Which this is a very nice, handsome, and tasteful Collector's Edition. But go to Aerodynamic's channel and look at the Crystal Edition, or just type in Final Fantasy XIII-2 Crystal Edition and look at some unboxings of that. Fantastic stuff that they're getting over there. So you Europeans are making out like a bandit. Finally. Anyway, wow, this game, you know, ever since I started playing it, I've gone and read reviews, and for the most part, the reviews have been, you know, average to good. No one's really saying it's great. You know, it's funny how I watch people on YouTube talk about it, and they're talking about what a great game this is, and then you go to the professional journalists, and they're like, oh, it's okay. It improves some things, but it's just okay. And I don't know if that's like an attack on this style of game in general, because I don't know. I'm not going to get into that kind of political stuff. But anyway, one of the big reviews that really bugged me was Screw Attacks. And I usually think Screw Attacks is pretty on the money. They, you know, look at a game just from a gamer's perspective. Is this game fun? Is it going to entertain you? And I really felt like Jared's review, in some ways, he definitely has an axe to grind against this game. And, you know, he's an old school Final Fantasy kid like me. And, you know, when 13 came out, I will admit, it wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't really what I wanted. And it blew me back because it was called Final Fantasy, and this is what it was. 13-2 really makes me want to go back and, you know, look at Final Fantasy 13 from a different angle to try to see if it really was just that. Was it really just because it was called Final Fantasy 13 and it was so different? Is that what really bugged me? So I really want to go back and give 13 another shot. But man, Jared just grinded an axe against this. And if you guys don't know Screw Attack, their review system basically boils down to a 3-tier system, which is buy it, rent it, or F it. And he gave it an F it, and I couldn't disagree with that review more if, I don't know, I cannot believe that they gave it an F it. Because from my own experience with this game, it is fantastic. It did exactly what Square Enix said it was going to do. You know, go back in and take the 13 engine and basically just revamp it a bit and make a better game. And they've made such a better game. So let's get into it and let's just talk about this game a bit. The storyline. From the word go, I was right there with the story. I love the story. I got a little nitpicky about the time travel in it, but you know, if you can look past that, and you know, if you've kind of fuzzed the lines on other time travel stories, you won't have any problem with this one. But man, what a great story. I love Noel, partly because of the fact that he has my last name, but just the story between Noel, Caius, and Yule is just such a fantastic, backstory. It's just so filled with, just pathos and just anguish. And Caius's reason for doing what he's doing, at first it seems kind of slight. It's like, really, he's going to destroy everything for this. But as you move through the game and you see more and more about what happened, and you get to interact with the character Yule more, you kind of see why he would do this, why it would drive him to do this. And man, when you get to that final battle and Noel and Caius have their moment in time, if you will, man, what a fantastic game. Sarah, I really like what they did with this game. In Final Fantasy XIII, Lightning was the main character, but the entire time you had Sarah, her shadow, kind of, overshadowing everything. The whole reason for Lightning's journey was to save Sarah. So, in this one, they flipped it, with Sarah being the main character and Lightning just permeating everything, I really liked that juxtaposition, and thought it was really good. That being said, I really enjoyed the interactions between Noel and Sarah, and I was really kind of rooting for them. I know that Sarah is, supposed to be with Snow, but I never really cared for Snow, and I really like her with Noel better, but that's just the romantic in me, I guess. But at the same time, I really kind of wish there was a third character there. Even if it was just, each timeline you go to, you run into one of the old 13 characters, and they were in your party. I think that would be a really cool idea, instead of the monster system, which I'll get to the monster system when we get into gameplay, but we're just talking about storyline right now. And of course, I'm keeping it vague. I don't want to spoil anything, but basically, what happens is, at the end of 13, the reason why everybody is still alive and breathing is because the goddess Etro has stepped in and stopped them from turning into their crystallized form for finishing their focus. And in doing that, basically the entire timeline gets changed and causes a sort of terrible future. So Caius, one of the members of that future, goes back and tries to correct things, or correct things in his eyes, we'll put it that way. And then, of course, Noel gets dragged into it, and we have our storyline. Sarah, of course, is looking for Lightning, who has disappeared from the world, and she is the only person that remembers Lightning. Everyone else thinks that Lightning is part of the crystal pillar that's holding up Cocoon. So you move through the timelines, and you sort of get a very kind of scattershot story. But as you move through more and more timelines and read more and more stuff that you get with the fragments and in the data log, a really awesome story kind of develops. And I'm telling you, when you get to that ending, and this is one of the big things that drove me crazy, is everyone said the game went nowhere, the story goes nowhere. That couldn't be further from the truth. That ending is devastating, and I'll tell you, if you do not get excited at the last image you see before it says "to be continued," check your damn pulse. Grand pulse. Because I saw that and I was like, oh man, bring on 13-2 or 13-3, bring it on. Oh man, I just want to see what happens. I want to see what that means, But yeah, I think it's gonna be great when they make 13-3. I really hope that they do it. I really hope they bring everybody in and tie it all together. So yeah, great storyline. I really enjoyed it, and in fact, there was a part between Caius and Noel that I actually started to get a little. I don't want to say like I got teared up, but you just kind of feel that brimming of the eyes a little bit, because it is a very tragic story, and a lot more emotional and tragic than I think 13 was. I think there's a lot more heart and soul in this story, because it's not about the typical JRPG story where we're going to fight God to secure our own destiny for mankind. It's really a very personal story from Noel's perspective and from Sarah's perspective, and it just kind of gets wrapped up into these huge events, but at the core of it is a very, very, very personal story, and I really like that. So, moving on to the gameplay. If you've played 13, you kind of know what to expect from this. The battle system is pretty much the same. Still has the same paradigm system. The only really big change is the monster pack. And basically what the monster pack is, you get to choose 3 monsters from all the monsters you collect. And those 3 represent basically your third character and your third person for the paradigm system. So it's kind of nice because in a way you can it really forces you to kind of pick and choose which paradigms are important to you. Makes you sort of pick and choose how you want to develop Sarah and Noel. But at the same time, I really think a third character would have just been better, you know. It's one of those things where the monster pack really doesn't add anything to the story, and really it doesn't add anything to the game, because if you had a third person, you would have those paradigms anyway. The only thing it really adds is, I mean, it's kind of arbitrary. It adds this little bit of a monster raising thing where you have to collect items in order to level up the character or the monsters. But it gets annoying after a while because each time you go up a spot on the Crisarium, like if you start off with this bulb here, it's like 1 item, and that's like 1 item, and then it starts jumping, like you need 2 items to move to the next level. By the end of some monsters' Crystariums, it was like 7 items to get the next level, and those are hard to come by. Especially some of the really higher level items. You would really have to do a lot of farming to get those. And you know, I think my final clock was around the 40-hour mark with this. I did try to get as many fragments as I could before I went to the final battle, because I think if the more fragments you have, the easier the final battle is. But I had 133 out of 160, so the final battle I still had to redo 3 times. So it is a little bit of a tough one. You know, maybe not if you grind everything out. I had a couple of my characters' Crisariums up to 99. I think I had 4 for each character up to 99, so it's not hard to really level your characters up really high if you try to find as many fragments as you can before you go to the final battle. But that being said, yes, the battle system is pretty much the same thing. I would have rather a third character than the monster system. I think it's okay. It's a good system, but at the same time, I don't think it's really necessary. The game's linearity or lack thereof. This is a huge open game. It is non-linear to the point of being almost too non-linear, which is a huge change from 13. You know, 13 you're running down corridor after corridor. Basically, they treated places on the world map as levels, so once you beat it, you really couldn't go back. Not so in this one. The timeline, you can completely disregard the storyline, because really you only have to go to certain places within the timeline to progress the story. You can actually finish the story really fast. You'd probably finish it in 20 hours. But you'd be missing a huge part of the game. So you definitely want to go to all the different timelines, try to find all the fragments you can to see as much of the story as you can. Some fragments you won't be able to get until after the main story is over in the post-game. So, with that being said, you know, once you get a bunch of a lot of the timeline open, you can go anywhere you want. You can spend a lot of time just grinding out levels in Academia 400 or in the Arcalite Steppe. You know, just grinding stuff out, trying to find rare monsters to be part of your party. The game kind of pushes you in the direction of the storyline, but of course you can always disregard that and just, you know, do what you want to your heart's content. There is a casino. I personally hate casinos in RPGs. I avoid them as much as I can. So instead of like actually playing the casino games in this game, I would just go farm Gil and then go buy, you know, as many tokens as I needed to get the fragments from Serendipity. So, you know, if you want that thing, it has slot machines. I think it has a card game, and it has chocobo races, which you can, you can collect chocobos for your monster pack, and they're one of the few monsters that you can collect multiples of. And then you can take them there and race them and like do all this stuff with them that I really don't care about. I really don't care about chocobo racing, and it's partly one of the reasons why I've never beat Final Fantasy VII, because in order to get the Knights of the Round materia, you have to have you have to create a black chocobo, which means you have to do chocobo racing, and it's just like, oh my god. I mean, you don't have to have Knights of the Round to beat Sephiroth, but it helps, and I do want it, and I'm just like, oh my god, I don't want to do this chocobo racing crap. I don't care. So it's there if you want it. I chose to ignore it. So what else? The actual locations of the timeline, you'll visit several of the same places. Like you visit basically the Yasif or the Yasif Mashif. You visit that like 5 timelines. So you're going to see a lot of the same places, but they do some cosmetic changes, and they do kind of close off and open up the locations a bit between the different timelines. There are some that are kind of linear, and then there are some like the Arcalite Steppe, and oh, what's the other really big open one? A Dying World. That one's a big open one too. But you don't get. I didn't really notice anything as big as, say, Grand Pulse when you finally get to chapter, what was it, 13 or chapter 11 in 13. That big, huge open expanse. There's nothing really that big. There are some really big places in there. Academia is huge. If you want winding, branching paths, wait till you get to Academia, man. It is. Thank God for the end-game map, or otherwise you would never get through that place. What else for the gameplay? I think that's about it. You know, they really did a good job of addressing the problems of 13. The Crisarium is actually really simplified in that you don't have a different Crisarium for each role. It's just you have one sort of path, and then you just pick which one you want to choose to level up. So you could level up a couple things of Medic, and then go to Commando and level up a couple more in the same Crisarium. So you don't have to switch Crisariums for roles anymore. What else? I think that's about it for the gameplay. Yeah, I think I covered everything. If I didn't, you know, leave me a message and I'll get back to you on it. If you have any questions, I'll answer them for you. Let's see. Did story? Did gameplay? The graphics? The graphics are, you know, if you've played 13, you know what the graphics are going to be. Of course, there are prettier games that have been released. It's running on the same graphic engine. What is it? The Crystal engine as 13. So, you know, it's still gorgeous. Academia, you know, with all its neon lights and its blue skies and everything, it looks fantastic. You know, you're not going to have any issues with the graphics, other than the fact that during the cutscenes there is some hiccuping of the frame rate. I don't know why. You would think, if anything, it would run even smoother, but there is a little bit of a hiccup. Maybe it's because it's on a Blu-ray, and I think I've read that Blu-rays read slower than DVDs. That might have something to do with it. I wouldn't think so, though. And the character models look a little bit waxy and dead behind the eyes sometimes. But, you know, there's only been a few games where I've really seen, you know, really good facial animations, and most of those are cel-shaded, and they have a lot of expression. And the other one was Enslaved, which, when you see the faces in Enslaved, it's unreal. But anyway, yeah, you know, flashy, your usual typical Final Fantasy Flash, you know, gorgeous graphics, easy on the eyes. One thing I really do like, and it goes in with the graphics, the graphical style of the game, I really love the game's use of pink. And pink was a color that I never really cared for, you know, younger. But as I'm getting older, and, you know, I don't care what people think anymore, I'm more secure in my masculinity, I actually really do like the color pink. And I really like the white, black, and pink that 13-2 does. And the title screen, I really like the title screen because it's just white, pink, and black. So, really, really like that color scheme for this game. And it makes sense because it's, well, it would have made sense for, well, not really with Lightning's character, but with Sarah's character, she's a little bit more gentle, so you want that kind of pink color. But, yeah, the graphics, you've played 13, you know what you're getting with the graphics. Gorgeous, but, you know, maybe a little bit outdated by today's standards. Music. And this is where I am so happy I bought the collector's edition and got that 4-disc soundtrack. The music is phenomenal. Ever since I bought this game, one of the discs, of the soundtrack has not been out of my car driving to work. It's fantastic. A lot of the places, a lot of the locations where you're running around, they have vocal tracks. There's only one vocal track I really don't like, and that's whenever it's heavy metal for like boss battles and stuff. But every vocal track that is in the game is just amazing. I love the song for New Bottom. I think that song is just so catchy, and it sinks into your head. There's a song for A Dying World when you finally get to 700 AF that is just, when you're walking around that place, it is just so haunting and so devastating. It's just fantastic music. The non-vocal tracks are your typical, Final Fantasy orchestrated music, really gorgeous. I think a couple composers worked on the games. I'm not a big, I really like video game music, but I'm not big on keeping up with who the composers are. I know Uematsu, and that's really one of the only ones that I really know by name. It's just not something that I ever like commit to memory, So I can't tell you who the composers are, but I think they're the same composers for 13. So there is some carryover, like the song you always hear when you load up 13, that's on the title track, or not the title track, the title screen. You'll hear that kind of play every now and then. It's a nice callback to the original game. So, yeah, that being said, guys, I'm telling you, if you had problems with 13, man, 13-2 is the game to sort of change your opinion. I know I had a real problem with 13. This game makes me want to go back and replay it and try to see it from, almost for the first time. It's a fantastic game. Don't wait for it to go down in price, because, when I did my early impressions video, I talked about how if we don't, buy these games and show our support for JRPGs, they're going to stop bringing them out over here. And one guy got offended because he thought I was saying, 13-2, buy 13-2 or they'll stop making JRPGs. That's not what I'm saying. We have to support, the people that are making these games. Square Enix is a company, and if we don't, buy these and support these companies, Square Enix, XSEED, Atlas, NIS, Namco, definitely Namco. They won't bring these games out over here. The video game market is changing, and it's getting a little scary in a lot of ways. Especially if you're a fan of Japanese games. I really think that we're going to stop seeing Japanese games over here. I mean, maybe not if Sony and Nintendo stay in the game, but with Microsoft being such a huge powerhouse now, I really think Western games are going to start taking over. And if you're fans of Japanese games, they're going to kind of, we've already seen it. They're already, few and far between. So we definitely have to support them when they come out. You don't have to buy the collector's edition, but definitely go out and pick up this game. It's fantastic, and the storyline is just so great. I mean, it starts off, you're going to be like, what the fuck's going on? But as the game progresses and you get to know the characters better and know the situation better, you're really going to be surprised, I think. I really do think that you'll be surprised with how much you actually end up enjoying this game. I know I am. And, like I said, I never thought I would say this, because I made so many jokes about 13-2. But man, when I got to the end there and I saw those last images, what happened with Noel and Sarah, and that last image, it has so many questions in my head of what that can mean, and I am so pumped. If they're not making 13-3, I'm going to be so upset, because I really want to see what happens next. I hope they mix the cast of 2 and 1, and it's just a big all-out, explosion of a game. I think that'd be fantastic, and I really hope we see it. I don't know if we will, but man, bring on 13-3. My body is ready to take a popular phrase of the now. So that is my discussion for 13-2. Next up, I don't know what I'm going to get to first. I have one game going, and that is Tactics Ogre. I don't know when I'll finish this, because these Tactics RPG games, I love them, but at the same time, I have to take breaks from them, because otherwise I would get sick of them, because each battle can take up to half an hour. So, you know, it's like, oh, I just don't feel like slugging through that. So, I don't know when this game discussion will be up, but hopefully sometime soon. And then the next 2 games I will be starting Tales of the Abyss on the 3DS. So look for that game discussion sometime. And I will also be starting Nier on the 360. And a lot of people have asked my opinion of this game, and I've not played it yet. So I'm gonna go with it because I hear it's fantastic. And this is another game that got, you know, sort of railroaded. People say unfairly. So I'm really excited to give this a shot. I will play it through 2 times to get the full story before I do the game discussion, though. So this one might take a while. So you might see Tales of the Abyss first. Yeah. So I want to play the 3DS a little bit because I don't get to play my 3DS very often. And this just came out, and I just played Tales of Eternia not too long ago. So I'm jonesing for some more Tales. So those will be the upcoming game discussion videos, unless I sneak something in or not. Other videos, I'm still thinking about doing a top 10 TV shows, or at least my favorite TV shows. That'll be a fun one, probably a 2-parter, so I can do 5 and 5 in each. I want to do a video where I talk about this whole used game controversy. I really think game companies are going to shoot themselves in the ass with this, and I really want to sit down and write out my thoughts on this and then do a video on it. So that'll be coming up sometime probably. But other than that, like always, I don't know what I'll do next, but be sure that I will have a video up sometime here in the near future. Once again, my week's starting up again, so I'll probably be dead by the end of it. But yeah, so that was XIII-2. Fantastic game. Go buy it. Don't even think about it. Just buy it and play it. Love it. Once again, my name is dustinkreis. Thank you for watching. Take care. It's still recording.